What is up, Xaliter here. The Cabal Hermit Skill tree is a great pick due to its flexibility in different builds. It can be useful in a variety of builds including mage, melee, elemental damage, and tank builds. The Cabal Hermit is located in North Chersonese, beyond Ghost Pass. Here, I'll go over all the perks of the Cabal Hermit Skill tree. Tier 1 skills are skills that are available to anyone. You just need to have the silver to pay for the skills, and you do not have to worry about using your limited breakthrough points for these skills. So, there is no harm in just buying these skills to experiment with them. Reveal Soul is an active skill that reveals a soul spot on a random nearby human corpse, gravestone, or skeleton. While you can buy it from the Cabal Hermit, you can also get it for free when you unlock mana. It costs 5 mana to cast a spell and has a cooldown of 5 seconds. Casting a secondary spell near these blue orbs can result in different effects. Casting Reveal Soul and then Spark, which is a universal skill that you automatically learn after getting mana, results in the Mana Spark spell, which consumes the soul spot to restore 50% of maximum mana. Casting Reveal Soul and then Rupture, which is a tier 3 Hexmage skill, results in the Soul Rupture spell, which consumes the soul spot to create an AoE blast dealing 100 ethereal damage and 66 impact. Casting Reveal Soul and then Conjure, which is a tier 3 Cabal Hermit skill, results in the Summon Ghost spell, which summons a ghost ally for 280 seconds. The ghost ally has 110 health, 80 physical damage resistance, and deals 20 ethereal damage with its sword. Call to Elements is an active skill that grants a different boon to the player depending on the player's current location. It costs 5 mana to cast and has a cooldown of 120 seconds. This spell costs less mana than casting a boon skill such as the Warm skill or Bless skill, but the downside is you cannot choose which boon you get. The boon you get depends on where you are located at the time of casting Call to Elements, but you can always experiment and see which boons you get when you are exploring the different regions and dungeons. Mana Push is an active skill that pushes a powerful gust of wind forward with a short range, dealing a lot of impact. It is great when fighting enemies as it deals a lot of damage to the enemy's stability and makes it a lot easier to stagger them. It is pretty short range though, so you have to make sure to be right in front of the enemy. It costs 5 mana to cast and has a cooldown of 15 seconds. It can be combined with other spells for different effects. Casting Blood Sigil, which is a tier 3 Hexmage skill, and then Mana Push, results in the Blood Tendrils spell, which adds 50 decay damage, 50 physical damage, and 25 impact to the original Mana Push stats, and increases corruption of the player by 3%. Casting Sigil of Wind, which is a tier 3 Cabal Hermit skill, and then Mana Push, results in the Ethereal Bolt spell, which launches a long-range Ethereal Bolt, dealing 25 ethereal damage and 100 impact. Casting Sigil of Ice, which is a tier 3 Philosopher skill, and then Mana Push, results in the Frost Push spell, which launches a frost projectile dealing 85 frost damage, 60 impact, and slowdown, which decreases the enemy's movement speed. Weather Tolerance is a passive skill that gives you plus 8 hot weather defense, plus 8 cold weather defense, and plus 5% decay resistance. Once you buy this skill, the effects apply to your character and there is nothing more you need to do. This skill provides some nice quality of life as it allows you to have some extra resistance against the hot and cold if you're traveling in the Abyssar Desert or the Chersonese in the winter, but you'll still need equipment or status effects to combat the heat and the cold. This skill by itself is not enough. In addition, the increased decay resistance is a nice small bonus against certain enemies like the Scourge. Tier 2 consists of a single skill. To buy this skill, you must use a breakthrough point, meaning that you are locked into the skill tree as one of your 3 skill trees. Shamanic Resonance is a passive skill that increases the effects that boons give you. For the Rage boon, it is increased from 25 to 35% impact damage bonus. For the Discipline boon, it is increased from 15 to 30% physical damage bonus. For the Mist boon, it is increased from 20% to 30% ethereal damage bonus and ethereal resistance. For the Possessed boon, it is increased from 20% to 30% decay damage bonus and decay resistance. For the Blessed boon, it is increased from 20% to 30% lightning damage bonus and lightning resistance. For the Cool boon, it is increased from 20% to 30% frost damage bonus and frost resistance, and it is increased from plus 8 to plus 16 hot weather defense. For the Warm boon, it is increased from 20% to 30% fire damage bonus and fire resistance, and it is increased from plus 8 to plus 16 cold weather defense. This passive is great in so many different builds because it increases your offensive stats for elemental and physical damage and increases your defensive stats for elemental damage. The extra weather defense is a nice bonus to have as it can offset some of the negative weather defense stats that certain heavy armors have. Tier 3 skills are locked behind the Tier 2 skill, meaning that to unlock the Tier 3 skills in the skill tree, you have to use a breakthrough point to unlock the Tier 2 skill of the same skill tree. Some Tier 3 skills are sitting right next to each other. When you see this, it means that the two skills are mutually exclusive, and if you choose one, you cannot choose the other. Sigil of Wind is an active skill that requires an activated wind altar. In each of the regions, there is a tower that you must interact with to activate before you can use this spell in that region. It costs 10 mana to cast this spell and has a cooldown of 100 seconds. After casting this spell with an activated wind altar in the region, it creates a magical circle on the ground that lasts for 60 seconds, and certain skills have different effects when cast in this circle. Casting Sigil of Wind and then Mana Push, which is a tier 1 skill, results in the Ethereal Bolt spell, which launches a long-range ethereal bolt dealing 25 ethereal damage and 100 impact. If you are using a pistol, casting Sigil of Wind and then Fire and Reload, which is a universal skill that you have at the beginning of the game to shoot your gun, results in Lightning Bullet, which causes the damage and impact of the bullet to increase to 1.6 times the original value from the pistol used and is converted into lightning damage. Casting Sigil of Wind and then Spark, which is a universal skill after getting mana, results in the Lightning Spark spell, which creates a lightning explosion dealing 85 lightning damage and 75 impact. Casting Sigil of Wind and then Conjure, which is a tier 3 Cabal Hermit Skill, results in the Lightning Strike spell, which creates a large lightning explosion at the center of the sigil, dealing 165 lightning damage and 200 impact. You don't actually have to be in the sigil to cast this spell. Infuse Wind is an active skill that requires an activated wind altar. In each of the regions, there's a tower that you must interact with to activate before you can use the spell in that region. It costs 15 mana to cast and has a cooldown of 240 seconds. After casting Infuse Wind, it gives you a wind imbue to your weapon for 180 seconds, providing 1.2 times attack speed, 1.5 times weapon impact, but 2 times the stamina burn rate. This buff is great for melee characters as it allows you to attack faster and increases the impact of your weapon. The downside to this is that you cannot have another imbue on your weapon at the same time, and using a rag or varnish will take away the wind imbue and vice versa. You may also find that your stamina burn rate is a lot faster than expected, so it might be a good idea to keep bitter spice teas and endurance potions in your inventory. In the Chersonese, the wind altar is located a little south of the Cabal Hermit's house. In the Hollowed Marsh, the wind altar is located on Pilgrim Road and is marked on the map. In the Enriker Forest, the wind altar is located in Berg, right up there. From the south entrance, this is the direction to the altar. In the Abyssar Desert, the wind altar is located north of the Cabal of Wind outpost. In the Antique Plateau, the wind altar is located east of the Cabal of Wind's temple. In Caldera, the wind altar is located to the west of the Primal Ritualist's hut. Conjure is an active skill that needs to be combined with other abilities to have an effect. It costs 10 mana to cast and has a cooldown of 8 seconds. Casting Blood Sigil, which is a tier 3 Hex Mage skill, and then Conjure results in Blood Turret, which summons a decay turret above the Blood Sigil for 30 seconds that shoots once per second, dealing 15 decay damage and 10 impact. It increases player's corruption by 6% at initial cast. Casting Sigil of Wind, which is a tier 3 Cabal Hermit skill, and then Conjure results in a Lightning Strike, which creates a large lightning explosion at the center of the sigil, dealing 165 lightning damage and 200 impact. Casting Reveal Soul, which is a tier 1 skill, and then Conjure, results in the Summon Ghost spell, which summons a ghost ally for 280 seconds. The ghost has 110 health and 80 physical damage resistance and does 20 ethereal damage with its sword. In my opinion, this skill tree is the most flexible in the game and can fit in almost every build. I hope you found this video informative. If you are thinking about making different builds in Outward, click on the info card for a build calculator that you might find helpful. Otherwise, I'll see you later.